So, ladies and gentlemen, here at the top of the show, we are going to be discussing the Steubenville trial. So, just a quick warning, if anyone has any triggers, any sexual assault triggers, you may want to skip the next 15 minutes or so of the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, the two high school football players who were accused of raping a 16-year-old girl in Steubenville, Ohio. The case made famous by videos, by tweets, by texts, by some of the town's reaction to the victim of the crime. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the two players were found guilty on all counts in a juvenile court in Steubenville, Ohio on Sunday. We are going to start out by playing a despicable bit of audio from none other than CNN. This is their coverage shortly after the verdict was read. We're going to start out by listening to CNN's Candy Crowley talking to another CNN reporter by the name of Poppy Harlow, who was outside the courthouse in Steubenville. It is really pretty awful. Take a listen.
We want to go now to CNN's Poppy Harlow. She is in Steubenville, has been covering this trial. I cannot imagine, having just watched this on the feed coming in, how emotional that must have been sitting in the courtroom.
I've never experienced anything like it, Candy. It was incredibly emotional, incredibly difficult even for an outsider like me to watch what happened as these two young men that had such promising futures, star football players, very good students, literally watched as they believed their life fell apart.
So, that's the angle you want to take here, huh, CNN? That's the story you want to tell. That's clearly the story. I guess, sure, that's the story we want to talk about. The story of those two star football player rapists as they literally watched as their lives fell apart. Those poor star football player rapists having their lives destroyed. Their poor star football player lives destroyed. No mention of the life of the 16-year-old girl that they raped. No mention of her life being destroyed after they did what they did. But man, oh man, it sure was sad and emotional that these two star football player rapists had their lives destroyed. I wish I could tell you that was all there was. I wish I could say that was the only soundbite that we're going to play. But oh no, it's not. That is only the beginning of about a 5-minute parade of horror that's going to happen on CNN. Take a listen to clip number 2.
One of the young men, Malik Richmond, when that sentence came down, he collapsed. He collapsed in the arms of his attorney, Walter Madison. He said to him, "My life is over. No one is going to want me now." Very serious crime here. Both found guilty of raping the 16-year-old girl at a series of parties back in August. Alcohol-fueled parties. Alcohol, a huge part in this.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Alcohol was a huge part in this. It was. Alcohol was a huge part. So this is a reminder to all you women out there. Women, remember, if you ever get drunk, it's your fault if you get raped. And guys, there's a reminder for you here too. If you're drunk and you rape someone, it's not your fault. It's alcohol's fault. Because everyone knows men who get drunk automatically turn into rapists. And women who get drunk deserve to be raped. The drunken sluts, am I right, CNN? And again, thank you so much for pointing out that one of the star football player rapists collapsed into his lawyer's arms after hearing the guilty verdict, because really, this is all about how this football player's life is now ruined. You know what? There's even more. There's even more from CNN. They then played audio where the two star football player rapists apologized. One did it really quickly and kind of in a monotone. The other was crying when he did it. Then Poppy Harlow, CNN reporter, had this fun thing to say. Take a listen.
I was sitting about 3 feet from Malik when he gave that statement. It was very difficult to watch. And you know, something that came up up throughout this sentencing, Candy, was that Malik's father got up and spoke. Malik has been living with guardians. His father, a former alcoholic, gotten into a lot of trouble with the law, been in prison before. And his father stood up and he told the court, I feel responsible for this. I feel like I wasn't there for my son. And before that, he came over to the bench where his son was sitting. He approached him, he hugged him, and he whispered in his ear. And Malik's attorney said to us in the courtroom, I have never heard Malik's father before say, I love you. He's never told his son that, but he just did today.
Well, I guess when you put it that way, Poppy Harlow of CNN, if you put it that way, well then clearly, it's not the 16-year-old girl that these star football players raped that's the victim. Oh, no, clearly, when you put it that way, clearly the rapists are the ones who are the victims here. Thank you so much for clarifying this. Poppy Harlow goes on.
This was an incredibly emotional day. These two juveniles being carried out right now. I'm watching people line up, and they will be committed today, Candy.
I still cannot get over the sound of shock in her voice there. They will be committed today. Can you believe it? These two who've been convicted of rape, who have been convicted of a violent crime, they're being committed today. I mean, shouldn't they be allowed to stay free? Shouldn't they be allowed to go back to football practice and to play in the big game? They are, after all, star players with a bright future ahead of them until this stupid girl had to go and get raped. Candy Crowley is going to get into the Victimizing the Rapists Act 2 as she brings on another CNN contributor, Paul Callan. Take a listen.
You know, Paul, a 16-year-old now just sobbing in court, regardless of what big football players they are, they still sound like 16-year-olds. The other one, 17, a 16-year-old victim. The thing is, when you listen to it and you realize that they could stay until they're 21, they are going to get credit for time served. What's the lasting effect, though, on two young men being found guilty in juvenile court of rape, essentially?
Rape, essentially? No, Candy Crowley. It's not rape, essentially. It is rape, not rape, essentially. But sure, Candy Crowley asked the really important question, which is, of course, what will the lasting effect be on these two young star football player rapists? How are they going to be after essentially raping a 16-year-old girl? Let's not talk about how the girl will be. Let's not talk about her life and how she's going to have to deal with this. Oh no, who cares about that? No. What is important here is the effect of raping this poor woman will have on the rapists. Well, Paul Callan from CNN is going to explain just what that effect will be. Take a listen.
Well, you know, Candy, we've seen here a courtroom drenched in tears and tragedy. And, you know, Poppy's description, I think, sums it all up. But across America, scenes like this happen all the time. I know as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, when that verdict is handed down, usually it's just the families of the defendants and the victims. There's always that moment of just lives are destroyed, and lives have already been destroyed by the crime.
No, stop. Don't mention that. Don't mention the lives that have already been destroyed. That's yesterday's news. The lives that were destroyed by the crime. Wait, don't even quickly mention that. No. When the rapists hear a verdict, that's when the most important lives are destroyed. That's what's important here. So, and thank you very much, Paul. We can't ignore the negative impact that this trial is having on the community. I mean, you heard him. The courtroom was in tears watching these poor star football player rapists get sentenced for their crime. Well, let's ask the next question. How will it affect the football team? He goes on to describe what these two young football star rapists have in store for them. Take a listen.
In terms of what happens now, the most severe thing with these young men is being labeled as registered sex offenders. That label is now placed on them by Ohio law. And by the way, the laws in most other states now require such a designation in the face of such a serious crime. That will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Employers, when looking up their background, will see that they're registered sex offenders. When they move into a new neighborhood and somebody goes on the internet where these things are posted, neighbors will know that they're a registered sex offender. It's really something that will have a lasting impact, much more of a lasting impact than going to a juvenile facility for 1 or 2 years.
So, these two young football player rapists will go to juvenile detention for a few years and have to report as sex offenders after they raped a 16-year-old girl. That's the story. The 16-year-old girl will never have not been raped anymore. Never. She will never not have a good portion of her hometown having turned on her. She will never have a good portion of her high school having turned on her, having her best friends turn on her and testify against her. She will never not have a good portion of her community turn on her. She will never not have the national media blame her because she was drunk. She will never have it. The national media not blaming the victim. And sadly, it's not just CNN. Let me be clear. This is probably the worst example of it, but it wasn't just CNN. Think Progress actually came up with a huge and horrific collection of just deplorable coverage on this. Here's the first sentence of the AP story on the trial. This is the AP, the first sentence from the story, quote, "Two members of Steubenville's celebrated high school football team were found guilty of raping a drunken 16-year-old girl." End quote. Yeah, stupid, drunk, teenage slut girl who destroyed the celebrated high school football team. Maybe if she wasn't so drunk, she wouldn't have destroyed the town and its marvelous, magnificent football team. Maybe she wouldn't have destroyed these young rapists' futures and lives. NBC's Nightly News, Lester Holt, who introed the NBC Nightly News story, had this lovely take. Take a listen to NBC News.
The crime took place against the backdrop of an alcohol-fueled night of partying, later amplified by tweets, posted photos, and video. It left the town of Steubenville deeply divided, and in many ways tonight stands as a cautionary tale to a generation that has come of age in the era of social networking.
Yeah, because that's clearly what this crime is all about. It's clearly a cautionary tale in the age of social networking. That's what it is. It's a cautionary tale. So kids out there, take note. If you're going to rape someone, you shouldn't take pictures, tweet, and text about it. That's what NBC News wants you to know. That's what they want you. That's what this cautionary tale is about. Not taking pictures and tweeting your crimes. How about a cautionary tale of don't rape? How's that for a cautionary tale? Do not rape ever. ABC News, in their article on this, said, quote, "Every parent's nightmare." This is every parent's nightmare and a cautionary tale for teenagers living in today's digital world. Yep, there we go again. A cautionary tale. If you're gonna commit violent sexual assault, at least be smart about it, kids. What the hell is wrong with these people? What is wrong with our culture? Why is our media so accepting? Why is our culture so accepting of rape culture? They accept it and they perpetuate it. That's what this is all about. Just our whole entire society's embrace of rape culture. That if a girl gets raped, it's because she was drunk or she was wearing a slutty outfit. That it's her fault. It is the victim's fault. It's her responsibility, and not putting the responsibility where it needs to be, and that is on the friggin' rapists. They're the ones who are at fault. It's the cautionary tale here for parents. The actual cautionary tale is, if you do not teach your children to respect women, if you do not teach your children not to see women as objects, if you do not teach your children not to see women as purely there for the sexual gratification of men, if you do not teach your children about consent, if you do not teach them about rape, if you do not teach them that they should not rape, then that's your failure. That's the cautionary tale. If parents fail to do that, if we as a society failed to do that, which we are failing as a society when it comes to this. Then we have a bunch of teenagers who think what they did in Steubenville is not a big deal, they think it's so not a big deal that they take pictures of it and videos of it and they tweet about it. The cautionary tale here is we live in a society that places athletes and sports over victims of sexual assault. That's a cautionary tale. The way the media covers this crime against a 16-year-old girl, that's a cautionary tale. The way the town reacted to the crime against the 16-year-old girl, that's a cautionary tale. The way other towns have and do react when their local sports heroes do something similar, that's a cautionary tale. That we still continue to blame the victim of sexual assault, that is the cautionary tale we need to be talking about. And we're not. We'll be right back.